We give a very warm welcome to the President of Ireland, McAleese.
We know vocally is Kalini. Consultation.
Arouse.
Arouse. Brilliant. Thorough. Absolutely fantastic. I've been in a long time. I'm asked to do a lot of conferences, a lot of openings, and they could be on anything, you know, from nuclear physics, or really sometimes very complicated things that I have to go and do an awful lot of reading about. But at last, I'm in a space where I know something about what I'm talking about, which is brilliant, because I know a thing or two about knitting. Actually, the very first thing I ever knit, I was very tiny, and my grannies had taught me to knit, like so many of us were taught by our mothers and our grandmothers. But the very, very first thing I ever knit, he doesn't know this yet, I'm going to disgrace him, was a pair of booties. And I have a great picture of him and his two brothers, who are also my brothers. You didn't know that, that's my younger brother, Damien. Damien and Pat and Phelan. In a photograph that has never seen the light of day since. They're sitting on a piano stool. I was just telling your daughter about it this morning, and I'm going to produce it to disgrace you sometime. Wearing matching knitted jumpers, but also matching knitted shorts. And they're just gorgeous. And they've been mortified now. Mortified. But I had safely said, I have knitted cushion covers, I have knitted tea cozies, I have knitted bed covers, but I have never ever knitted a cover for a bus. So I'm going to have to start on a completely new enterprise. Here's a bit more for getting involved in new enterprises. And I was also very struck by the revelation unknown to me that knitting started in ancient Egypt with the knitting of socks. And I can say it probably didn't last very long in ancient Egypt if men were doing it. Do you remember ladies turning the heel on a sock?
Yes.
That would defeat most people, certainly defeat most men. And I am sure that knitting died out of ancient Egypt very, very rapidly. There's a wonderful story in our family, and it's all true. Do you remember in school when we were learning to knit, one of the things we had to learn to knit was socks? Actually, in those days, if you wanted a pair of socks, you had to knit them, right?
Yeah.
If you wanted a jumper or a cardigan, you had to knit it. Yes. If you wanted a dress, you had to sew it. Because we didn't have all the shops that you have now. We had to. It wasn't just for fun, it was for fundamentals. We had to do it. But we enjoyed it, and it was fun. We did get fun out of it. Every evening in our house, the house became like a factory. Everybody had to do something, to be doing something useful, making something. But anyway, in our local school there arrived a new teacher who couldn't knit for tuffy, which was not a good thing. So when she got to the point where she was able to do the straight north everyday plain purl, you know, one row plain, one row purl, but when it got to turning the heel of the sock, she just couldn't do it. So very cleverly she said to the kids, take your knitting home and ask your grannies to turn the heel of the sock. A whole lot of grannies couldn't do it, but a whole lot of mummies ended up in our house. And night after night, we would have 4 or 5 people sitting in the house while my mother, myself, and my grandmother turned the heels of about 40 pairs of socks. And many, many years later, the teacher concerned was telling the story. Many, many, many years later, we had moved house, we were now living 40 miles away, and that teacher became a great friend of my mother's through a bridge club. But Mommy didn't make the connection. It was only when they started to say, oh, we lived in Ardoyne, and she said, I taught in Ardoyne, and they started to chat, they realised she was the teacher who had tormented us for months with the turning of the heels on. Anyway, it was a great way to start a good friendship. So great things come out of knitting. Beautiful products come out of knitting. Things that you can be proud of. Things that make your heart soar. When a little baby is due, a friend or a member of the family, or your brother or sister is being born, like this fellow here, and you start knitting for them, to see a gorgeous little teddy bear appear, or a gorgeous little sweater, it's a wonderful thing to be able to give a gift that you have made yourself, isn't it? It's a lovely thing. And one of the things I know the children are doing is they're knitting the trauma teddies, and they will be given as gifts to little children who maybe are feeling a bit sick, or who are in an ambulance, or going to hospital. And can you imagine how they feel when they get a little gift of a teddy bear? How do you think they feel? Huh? Do you think they'll feel better? much happier to have the comfort of a little teddy bear that somebody has bothered to knit for them with all that love and care. And that's one of the joys of knitting. It is the production by your own hands of something that is either beautiful or useful, or usually both. And that's a great thing, a mighty thing. So I hope you all enjoy it. One of the lovely things too is the relationships. Mary's a great woman for focusing on relationships, and in particular for focusing on relationships between young and old, for being able to introduce young people to their own skills through the relationship they have with older people whose skill and talent shared helps our young people to widen their interests, show them how great they can be at all sorts of things they never thought they would be good at, or never thought even to be good at. But here are our older people who have all these great skills, particularly that great skill of knitting, of crocheting, sewing, all those wonderful handcrafting skills. And who knows, I mean, there could be another great designing genius, another Aileen Bodkin among them, couldn't there? Because it has to start somewhere, doesn't it? I would say many of the women and many of the men who became great designers of all sorts of things, they started off with their grannies and their mothers, didn't they? That's what they started off with. There used to be a wonderful photograph in our house. I don't know if you remember seeing it, Damien, when we were young. And just as I have disgraced my brother by talking about himself and his brothers and their knitted shorts, my grandmother had 11 children, and she was, like my mother, a ferocious knitter. And she was also a great woman to recycle. Everything that was knitted would eventually be unwound whenever it got a hole in. Remember those days? Yeah, they have discovered recycling now. Recycle, reuse, long invented. So we would have the job of unwinding and reusing the wool, with the result that every sweater ever knit by my granny, of course, was ferrite. That means that it was multicoloured. And she was a genius at putting colours together. And one of the things that she used to send the children out to school in matching ferrite jumpers and socks. And then during the war, she knitted them all matching ferrite gas mask covers. Okay, not buses, but getting close. And when the school inspector would come, all the McAleese children would be lined up in their matching ferrite jumpers and socks and their matching ferrite gas mask covers. They were naturally mortified, absolutely mortified. But these are the things that memories are made of, aren't they? Wonderful, great memories. And the wonderful thing is, each time my grandmother or any of you sits down to knit, very often they were not knitting for themselves. That was the thing that I always noticed. They were always knitting with love and with care for someone else. And to put on use something that another human being has invested their time in, their talent in, but most importantly their love in, it's so much a different experience than putting on something that you lifted down from a shelf in a shop. It's a very different experience. And that's really what this is all about. And it stems from the great love that Mary has for people. It stems from the great love that she knows that our seniors have for their country, for their community, for their families, for our children. And it's to get that love working, like an engine, showcasing itself in so many different ways. I don't know, many projects have to go going now. God help the next president. This one has been absolutely flogged to death. I don't know how many openings I've done for you now at this stage. Between the Senior Citizens Helpline and between the wonderful Falch's job project to, the simple idea of older people welcoming newcomers who didn't have good English into our community, and not just teaching them English, but introducing them to family, to clan, to locality, to the stories and memories of a locality. Who else could have thought of it? Only Mary. All the wonderful ideas associated with the third age. I'm pretty much getting ready to join the third age. And the good news is that Mary has plenty of work for me to do.